Welcome back to yet another episode of The Inverted Microphone. My name is Reese Goodall. I'm joined by the great Joao Lara Jr. We have another episode talking some Premier League football, a jam-packed weekend of Premier League action where we might have found more about who the title winner might just be. We've got that weekend review. We've got a Champions League preview as well. Match day 8 in the league stage. All 18 games, if you can believe it, kicking off at the same time with tons of teams in jeopardy of not making that top 8 or even that top 24. And then rounding it out with some very important news on this side of the Atlantic in the USL, where it sounds like U.S. soccer might be having its first foray into promotion and relegation. But to start things off, Joao Lara Jr., you're the co-host. How are you doing on this lovely, lovely Tuesday?
Well, first of all, I just feel absolutely happy to be here today. I feel like I just want to Millie rock my way through life, just like how Jesse Lingard did at the Emirates in 2017. But that's besides the point. Really happy to be here, and ready to talk some ball and have a great time as well.
Yeah, I don't really care about Jesse Lingard. Sorry, buddy. Let's kind of get the elephant out of the room or whatever, the polar bear in Arlington, Texas. Let's address it. Before we even get into the winners losers, because you mentioned it, Arsenal played Manchester United on Sunday. They lost 3-2. Arsenal lead on the title slipped to only 4 points now. Still a lead, but not a substantial lead. This is going to be one of my losers, the first of my losers, for very obvious reasons. My first loser of the week is Arsenal, purely because you have dropped points in your last 3 games. You had an opportunity to extend your lead on the title to near double digits, even before the Manchester United result. And then to go out, have a performance like that at home, it was quite appalling, to say none the least, from an Arsenal perspective, because you needed to get 3 points in this game. This is a rivalry match. Regardless of how this game has progressed over the years, it's still considered a rivalry. For Arsenal to not find 3 points, not only in this game, but again, in any of its last 3 games, it is signs that this team isn't ready to win a title, which is worrying given how much money they've spent over the last few years and the fact that they've finished second place in each of the last 3 seasons. Joao, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I had Arsenal also slated as a loser. I can change it up however you want, but I think
No,
it's
you can
fairly
keep
obvious. I think that after you draw to Nottingham Forest, after you have the chance to go 9 points up, and then obviously you lose to Manchester United, a must-win match with a very volatile Manchester United team, to say the least. It's very difficult, right? And it's not going to continue to get easier. Yes, they have that Champions League match against Kairat, but we've seen upsets like this before. I mean, this could be very similar to Real Madrid Sheriff if it were an upset. I'm not saying that it will be, but I think just off the top of my head, some of the most recent upsets, it's very difficult for the squad, and they're going to have to try to find their way. And what we talked about in the New Year's resolution podcast at the beginning of this month was, hey, you have to try to find that continuity and win those difficult games, and they're starting to slip up a little bit. So, I mean, it's not the end of the road. You don't wave the white flag, but it's very concerning, and they're definitely going to have to pick up the pace if they want to try to continue contending for Champions League, Premier League, and what is it, the EFL Cup.
I'll have to say, though, the game against Kairat Almaty does not matter whatsoever for Arsenal. They've already kind of thrown it away already with how the ending against Inter Milan went when Mikel Merino and Declan Rice both picked up yellows, meaning they'll miss this match. It doesn't matter. Again, Arsenal's secured top 2, which top 2 may as well, second place may as well be first place. They've got a big enough lead on goal difference as well that no matter really what happens against Kairat, who are, mind you, the worst team in the Champions League this season, the result doesn't matter. Arsenal's fine in that standpoint. Not included in my losers of the week, but certainly could have been, is Victor Gyökeres. His struggles have continued again and again and again. Obviously, the highlight of the match for him was that chance that was given as a foul, so it wouldn't have stood it if he had scored it. But he puts it a mile wide of the goal. He only played 32 minutes, in fairness to him, but again, the Premier League consistency has not been there for him this season. He's got 5 goals in 21 games in the Premier League. Mind you, he does have 3 goals in 5 Champions League appearances. But Arsenal really needs to start being concerned about Victor Gyökeres because, again, the Premier League consistency is not there. Gabby Jesus isn't really fit. He's not himself because he's coming off a horrendous knee injury less than a year ago. Kai Havertz can't stay fit. And the fact that Arsenal again is in this problem, in this predicament where they don't have an out and out number 9 that you can count on to get a goal would really seem to be the difference in my eyes between them winning and bottling the Premier League this season.
Yeah, it's once again, it's very difficult to sort of judge a striker who went from being one of the top goal scorers in Europe last year to going to this different Arsenal system and lacking that goal scoring ability, which is what they spent the money on him. Um, I don't know if do you think that Arsenal will have to resort to using Kai Havertz possibly or what options does the squad really have? I mean, it's January. I don't think you get a striker in January, and I don't think it'd be sensible to get a striker in January.
I think honestly that the perfect option would really just resort to what you did last season and stick Mikel Merino up there. Kai Havertz hasn't been able to stay fit. He's had multiple setbacks as well. He has played in just a few games this season. Rather, that's not even true. He's only played in, or sorry, he's played in 3, but none with too many minutes. Kai Havertz's fitness is really, really hurting this team. Gabby Jesus, he's not fit, and while he has played, he hasn't shown consistency. And then Victor Gyökeres, just quite frankly, isn't at the level to be at a striker for a team like Arsenal. And Mikel Merino is one of the best ball strikers in this club. I mean, time and time again, last season and in the early stages of this season, you saw him, just take on that kind of poacher role where he's finishing these difficult chances. The one thing that separates Mikel Merino as well is that he's a natural born midfielder, and because of that he's more willing to drop down, drop deep, and assist with build up, assist Saka, assist Odegaard, assist Declan Rice, assist whoever it may be in progressing the ball down the pitch, which is something that Victor Gyökeres does not bring to the table.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying, and it's things again. They're not going to continue to get easier for this Arsenal squad. I think that they do have some grace in playing Leeds next, but Leeds for some reason has been somewhat competent against clubs in the upper half this season. But sort of moving on, obviously address the other elephant in the room. One of my winners this week obviously has to be Manchester United. You go from beating Manchester City, you go from having a pretty decent showing against an Arsenal side. I think that the squad it looked well in transition. It covered the spots it had to on the wings. I think that the play in the midfield as well. I think Bruno Fernandes had a great game. I think that Kobe Mainu had a great game, and also just taking advantage of those spaces on the attack as well. Mateus Cunha, what does he do when he has the ball in open space? He's gonna take advantage of that open space. He sees a little gap in the goal, lets one rip. That's sort of how you have to do things. So I mean, this is very great for them, obviously. And I think the most important thing is gonna be seeing how they fare against sides who are on the mid to lower half of the table. Um, just because they have been a big boogeyman for this squad in the past couple of years.
And that's actually my point with Manchester United as well. These last 2 games, Manchester United have played up to and beyond the level of their opposition. Manchester City and Arsenal, the 2 top sides in the Premier League, and United have went out and really looked much better than both of them in both of those matches. The next 3 games for Manchester United are Fulham home, Tottenham home, and then West Ham away. None of those, or two of those sides, Tottenham and West Ham, aren't very good at the moment. Fulham have been pretty good. They're seventh in the Premier League currently. I think that this is the best chance that the United strand will ever get of getting a haircut. But I think knowing Manchester United over recent years, they will slip up in probably that Tottenham game or the West Ham game just because they've struggled finding consistency against these smaller sides, as you've mentioned, which is why Ruben Amorim is currently unemployed.
Yeah, I mean it's obvious, right? And it's been something that's been with almost every manager with Manchester United in the past 5 years. I mean, it's just once again, it's going to be interesting to see, and then obviously with the loss of Patrick Dorgu as well, he's going to be out for around 10 weeks, another hamstring injury. Um, I think that opens up the opportunity to maybe seeing Mbermo on the left wing, Diallo on the right wing. It'll be interesting to see how this United squad lines up. But Reese, do you want to go a winner or a loser next?
We'll go a winner. We'll go a winner. And it will be actually Manchester United's biggest rival, Manchester City. Manchester City have not been good over this recent stretch, so much so that our last podcast, we talked about the future of Pep Guardiola. In the last four Premier League games, they hadn't won one. And this weekend, they just won their first game in that four-match span, 2-0 over Wolves. Not impressive given Wolves' status in the Premier League, 20th place. But the fact that with their struggles, they sit second place in the Premier League, only 4 points behind Arsenal. You take that every day of the week, and once Semenyo, once Mark Gahey makes their way into the fold and really find consistency with this Manchester City squad, which is something that Semenyo is already doing, by the way. He's already scored 3 goals in 4 games. But once they build that consistency, build that chemistry with the squad. Manchester City, I mentioned it earlier in not this podcast. I've mentioned it before. Manchester City are dangerous, and these transfers have only helped them. And they are probably the favorite to win the Premier League at the moment in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean it's if things remain the same, if Arsenal remains in the same step, most definitely, and City is one of my winners for that same reason. They I feel like they have more of a chance just because Arsenal's striker situation isn't defined yet, and that's what's really holding them back. That's what's gonna impede them from doing one of these competitions. But I have a sort of a question for you as well, because City's one of my winners. But tomorrow they play Galatasaray. Now, do you think that they can pull off a win? It is a game at home at the Etihad, but this isn't a Galatasaray squad full of scrubs. I mean, these are some names that we've seen over the years, such as Davinson Sanchez, Lucas Torreira, Leroy Sané, Berap
Victor
Yilmaz,
Osimhen.
Osimhen, obviously. I was leaving the best for last, but do you think that City can pull off a result against a well-composed Galatasaray squad?
It's certainly going to be difficult, and because again, as you mentioned, the quality of players that Galatasaray have. Galatasaray though haven't been great in the Champions League over the last 3 games. They lost to Union Saint-Gilloise, lost to Monaco, and drew to Atletico Madrid, which is a good result to them. Man City have also had their fair share of slip-ups as well. The Bodo Glimt loss, which we got into last week, as well as losing to Bayer Leverkusen recently. I think all things considered, Manchester City have really that Bodo Glimt game was a wake-up call for this team, and because of that, I struggle to see them losing to too many sides, regardless of the competition, regardless of the level of the opposition. And I think that this Galatasaray match is certainly no different. As Manchester City, they're playing for something as well. They're playing to get into the top 8. They're in one of those tied spots between a plethora of teams. Again, we'll get into it more later on in the show. I think it's hard not to back Manchester City in any match they play in, especially at home. But again, as the Joao Lara quote goes, we'll just have to wait and see. In the Premier League, though, like Manchester City, they have Tottenham away, which has been a bit of a bogey game, but Tottenham also is Tottenham's second club is Manchester City. We've seen that over the years. They'll probably throw the match for them. But their very next match is Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, and then Liverpool in the Premier League. It's a difficult run of matches. And after having that wake-up call against Bodo Glimt draw, what do you kind of picture this Man City side doing over this next 4 or 5 games?
Well, really, I think that Pep Guardiola is going to use this as an opportunity to sort of find what really works. Because what noticing this last game against Wolves, it was really he put more faith into Omar Marmoush instead of putting Erling Haaland out there. It ended up working out. Marmoush played 74 minutes, scored a goal, was considered man of the match by FootMob, 8.3 rating. I think he's gonna try to fit more of these pieces and sort of see who works in the system that he wants to employ, and from there, I think that's when we'll start seeing a defined 11 almost every week in week out. But I mean, he has the pieces to work with. But once again, Pep is no stranger to adversity, and I think City can get out of this with not with ease, but not very difficult as well.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Again, the quality of Manchester City players just makes it another level. Joao, do you have a loser?
I'm gonna be a negative Nancy here and go with Tottenham. I think that Tottenham has to be on the list. Once again, we talked about them last week. We made the joke that Tottenham's gonna be on this list every week, but it's absolutely embarrassing once again for this Tottenham side. It cannot take you 90 minutes to find a second goal to equalize against what 19th place Burnley. It's unacceptable for a squad of the caliber of Spurs, as fans say it to be, as their own fans want them to be. It's just not there. You're sitting in 14th place. You had 18 shots on target. You only had 4 big chances. What are you doing? What is not working? Reese, I don't know if they were on your list of losers, but they're definitely on mine.
Joao, again, we mentioned last time on this podcast, last time we did the winners losers segment, which you mentioned just now. Tottenham are likely going to be on this list every single time on the losers side of things. And both of us have Tottenham. I think the way they played against Burnley was, again, unacceptable at times. You cannot be conceding 2 goals to Burnley. Conor Gallagher looked okay. They were well dominant over Burnley. Like, let's tell it how it is. Tottenham were the better side in this match. The issue they faced was that they just make these continuously stupid mistakes. Mickey Van de Ven made a terrible defensive mistake where it looked like he just folded into pieces. I don't know how he didn't break a leg. And I know that sounds awful, but it was just truly nuts the way he folded down. But this is honestly what we've come to expect from Tottenham, because this is a better result than what they got last week. Last week they lost to West Ham at home. So I think it's just all in all encapsulates the problems with Tottenham. I mean, this season they've picked up 9 points at home in 11 matches, and not an acceptable mark for any side, but a side that has spent £1 billion on building a stadium, state-of-the-art stadium in London, and is supposedly a Big Six side. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to have that level of home form. And I mentioned it last week about how they need to abandon the ship of Thomas Frank. They need to let him go because there's really no saving it. It's too far gone at the moment. And I think they're gonna get that kind of Eric Ten Hag curse where, Ten Hag won the FA Cup, and because of it, Man United didn't sack him. They kept him on for about 3-4 months into the next season. Thomas Frank is being really, really successful in the Champions League. They've just come off a big win against Dortmund. They are going to likely finish in the top 8. It is a little uncertain at the moment. Again, we'll get into it later, but they're currently 5th. They've beat Copenhagen. They've drew to Monaco. They did lose to PSG, but that one was a thriller. Tons of goals in that game. They play Eintracht Frankfurt, where a win would officially seal them of that top 8 spot. And I think because of the Champions League success, they're going to go through. Or they're going to keep Thomas Frank.
So it's It's similar to Manchester United last season in the Europa League, right? You're getting these, not comparing the Champions League to the Europa League before I start getting hateful comments and stuff like that. Yes, I read them, but it's very similar.
JV Torta.
It's it's very similar to United last season in the Europa League, where they had success in that tournament. They're doing well in Europe, but in the league it was just it's not working out. It's not clicking. What do you think is helping them be so successful in Europe, and what do you think is going wrong in the Premier League?
What is going wrong with what? Sorry.
What do you think is working in the Champions League, and what do you think
I
isn't
think
working in the Premier League?
I think it's the quality difference between the English sides and the uh, the rest of Europe. Again, this was a talking point that I was going to save for the Champions League point, but there's a chance that that the top eight features six English sides. That shows just the quality difference. And Tottenham is 14th in the Premier League. Newcastle's not having a great Premier League season. Liverpool, by their standards, aren't having a great season. Yet they're fourth in the Champions League. Right? It's there's a quality difference. And again, I'll get into it more later. But Joao, actually, I'm gonna go a winner now because you went last with Tottenham. Go positive here. Switch things up. Ethan Nwaneri just joined Marseille on loan. In his first game, scored a great goal and really, really looked like a top-class professional. And obviously, he's not going to quite get into the Arsenal fold this season. He was able to get into it a lot last season due to the amount of injuries that Arsenal had that really cost them the title in many ways. But Ethan Nwaneri's continued development and continued presence on the pitch in these big matches, in these big moments, the loan to Marseille to play in Ligue 1 is really, really going to be beneficial for him. And it's something that Arsenal has really been criticized for a lot in the past, where they have struggled to loan out some of its top talent, some of its top youth talent. And finding Marseille of all options for Ethan Nwaneri, it's a little bit interesting, but it's still top level football. And when he's playing like that, you really can't complain too much.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing other clubs and we're seeing other players do this as well. I mean, Enrique also goes to Olympique Lyon, and same thing. He wants the play time. He's looking for the play time. Honestly, good for him. I love seeing ballers who have a difficult time in their Premier League squads, go to somewhere else and do great. I think it's always a great feeling. I think it's always fun to see as well when they're a likable character. Like if it's someone who left their squad because they didn't really fit in or nobody liked them, it's like okay, like they're doing well, sort of like a Noah Lang initially. Um, but no, I have nothing but positive comments to say about this, and I hope he continues doing well at Marseille.
Yeah, for Endrick at Lyon, 3 games, 4 goals, and an assist in all competitions. Just came off a
Bobby,
hat trick against Mets. Bobby Charlton, that is right. Yeah, that's youth development. It's key to winning football matches. Joao, winner or loser? I think you've got one of each left.
I'm gonna remain negative and go
Wow.
loser. I think we have to address another top squad in England, Liverpool. Liverpool just lost 3-2 to Bournemouth this past weekend. Now, given Bournemouth did score a 95th minute goal to go ahead and win the match, but again, Liverpool has been sort of rocky this year. They've had their high moments, and then really for the majority of it, it's just been draw, loss, draw, loss, draw, loss. And once again, a lot of people are still aren't slot out, but it's very difficult to see with this squad just because you have lots of injuries, just because your backline isn't performing like how it's supposed to. Yes, you have Virgil van Dijk, but it's an aging Virgil van Dijk. Konate has not been on form this season. And Joe Gomez just got injured last match. So it's very difficult to do what you're used to seeing or do what you're used to doing um with a squad like this. And again, I don't know if it's justified to say aren't slot out yet. Reese, what are your thoughts on that?
I think two things can be true, right? And this was my opinion with Tottenham last week with Thomas Frank. Is yes, injuries make a difference, but there comes a point where your results become so far unacceptable that you have to make the change, right? Obviously, Virgil van Dijk has struggled this season, isn't quite himself. Ibrahim Konate has been poor. Joe Gomez, though, has consistently had fitness issues over the last few years. Like, he played 17 games last season. He played 17 games so far this season. Connor Bradley's out for the season, right? But when you draw 4 games in a row, you draw to Burnley in that stretch. You draw to Leeds. You've drawn to Leeds both times you've played them this season. You got thrashed by Man City early this season. You got thrashed by Forest, thrashed by PSV. I think that Arne Slot's leash will be long enough that he won't be sacked now, won't be sacked if they drop their next couple of games, because they do have a difficult stretch upcoming against Newcastle, against City, or the next two Premier League matches. Excuse me. And then they've got Sunderland away. But I think it would be the right thing to get rid of Arne Slot, because you're in this just weird spot where, are you a top 4 side in the Premier League, or are you a mid-table side? You've been fluctuating only because, or you haven't been fluctuating because other sides have been so insistent on dropping points as well. But I think it represents a whole other load of issues for Liverpool beyond just a manager, beyond just the players. I think the transfer approach this window was poor, and that's putting it lightly. Milos Kerkez was nothing but a flop. You spend a whole bunch of money on bringing in Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike, which, again, we've mentioned many of times on this podcast. They're effectively the same profile. Obviously, Giovanni Leone gets hurt. You spend a ton of money on as well. Then, again, Milos Kerk is a flop. Florian Wirtz, haven't even spoke about him. While he has certainly picked it up recently, he's been playing much, much better, much more confident. Has he been worth the price tag? Absolutely not. Jeremy Frimpong, the price tag paid for him is not worth it at all in my eyes, as well, as much as people cannot consider him a right back, because his main advertisement, his main focal point as a player is his attacking prowess. He plays right wing for the Netherlands. He's not a right back. He's a right wing back, really a right winger. But he has really, really struggled for a large part of this season. There have been times when he's looked really good, but a lot of the time he's looked out of place in the Premier League. And now he has struggled with fitness himself. He's only played in 18 games this season. But all these transfers, all this money has not been invested wisely. They saw they won the league last season, and they were trying to recapture that this season. But again, if you spend however much money that Liverpool spent this season, a number that has so many commas, so many digits, I'll never be able to even think of it, and not win the league, that cannot be viewed as anything but a complete and total failure from Liverpool.
Yeah. Again, you took all the words that I had to say. You spend so much money, you don't make it work. A lot of issues that big clubs have already. I mean, over the past 10 years, I want to say there's been clubs who have spent hundreds of millions of pounds, if not even more, and you don't make it work. It's absolutely unacceptable. Reese, you have one more loser, if I'm not wrong.
I have one more winner.
Yeah, one more winner.
This is kind of an interesting pick, right? We've been talking about the Premier League so much. We're staying in the Premier League for this one. And the relegation race looked to be a pretty much foregone conclusion, right? Burnley have been bad. They've drawn their last few games. Wolves have been really bad for a large part of the season, only just picking up their first win of the campaign. And although teams above them are winning games, I'm giving it to West Ham. West Ham have really ticked up a notch, and although they just signed Adama Traore, which is a very, very weird signing for 2026, they've won their last 2 Premier League games against 2 sides that are really much better than them, right? beating Tottenham in the Premier League, especially at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, isn't that hard to do. But to steal it late with a Callum Wilson winner is something that is much needed. And then beating Sunderland at home. Sunderland, who have really been one of the starlets of the Premier League this season. They beat him 3-1 in a match that they were up 3-0 in before they conceded. 3-0 up before halftime. Again, they're 5 points out of safety. But if they can keep up their form like this, if they can keep winning, West Ham might be able to pull off the escape and might be able to play in the Premier League again next season.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see if the Hammers can stay up in the Premier League. But once again, it's sort of an issue of continuity. Can they continue picking up these results, and sort of how can you keep on gunning for that win? And again, it's not going to get any easier. Chelsea is their next opponent on the 31st of January. Then they face a relegation battle with Burnley on the 7th of February, and then they eventually end up playing Manchester United. This next stretch of games is very important for this West Ham side, and they have to try to take advantage of all the points, and they have to really hope that whoever's above them, so Nottingham Forest really just drops points somehow, which has been possible. We've been seeing it, and they're not in for an easy stretch as well. It's clubs that are really close to each other. So it's Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Leeds, and then Nottingham Forest versus Wolves are the next three Premier League matches. There is definitely a big possibility that they drop points, and West Ham could be above that safety zone. It's gonna be interesting to watch, and it's gonna be interesting to see. For my final winner, I had to address that elephant in the room. I wanted to hear your thoughts. I've seen a lot of takes, and I think that a lot of people are overreacting. 2 matches, yes, congratulations, you beat some of the best squads in the Premier League, and I promise this is the last time I talk about United on this podcast because I've done it all freaking day. Michael Carrick has to be one of my winners. A lot of people doubted him in the game against City. He goes out, um, plays a great squad with a great system, sort of demonstrates that he can compete with these managers and drag out a team from a very dark or very uncertain spot. I think for that work has to be commended, especially the result against Arsenal. Now I've been seeing people saying, "Oh well, Michael Carrick needs to be extended. Michael Carrick needs to sign the contract." I don't think he's there yet. Quite simply, I think people are overreacting again. They're getting excited. Yes, 2 games, phenomenal. Wait to see how he lines up a squad against a Burnley. Wait to see how he lines up a squad against a Fulham, against a Wolves, a Crystal Palace, a Nottingham Forest. Wait until you see how a squad plays against those types of sides. If they pull out the result, sure, maybe in a month's time or two, if they're still doing well, if they're still finding ways to win or draw games, give them the contract. But still, it's too early. Slow down, calm yourself, and just continue watching the game.
I think with Michael Carrick, I do think he has definitely rejuvenated this Manchester United side, and that there's no lying about that. The 2 wins that they've picked up over their last 2 matches have been absolutely massive. There's no way around that, right? However, to go and say, not saying you, but people, saying that this is the permanent managerial option is nothing farther than from the reality that Manchester United need. I think as good of a caretaker appointment that Michael Carrick might be, as good as Manchester United might play down the stretch of this season, I think there's 2 things you should never do in sports. And this isn't just to football, this isn't just to basketball, baseball, whatever sport you want in the world. There's 2 things I think you should never do when appointing a manager. First is appoint the interim manager that the players love. Because It's very quickly going to turn into this weird relationship where the players and manager are just best friends, and that's not how it should be. That's not how the hierarchy should go at a football club. And two is hire a player that is considered a legend by your club. I'm not saying Michael Carrick is that level, but he's still a guy that played under Sir Alex Ferguson, played under these legendary Manchester United squads. And the issue is it ties back to a lot of the Manchester United problems that I think they've been having over the years, where it just feels like Sir Alex Ferguson, while he's still not the manager and hasn't been for almost 12, 13 years now, he's still weirdly involved with every single decision made at the club. Darren Fletcher called him before accepting the interim manager job. These are things that Manchester United need to get away from. They need to begin to start their own identity. The only way you'll ever be able to replace Sir Alex Ferguson is by admitting that Sir Alex Ferguson is gone. You have to recognize where you're at in 2026 and that Sir Alex Ferguson is retired, is living his best life outside of Old Trafford, right? And the sooner Manchester United can break free from the Michael Carricks, the Darren Fletchers, the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you name it, all these Manchester United former players have stepped into the club in one way or another. It just doesn't make sense. You look at other clubs, right? When they appoint an interim manager, it's usually these guys that have played for the club before, like Duncan Ferguson with Everton. Freddie Ljungberg was interim manager for Arsenal for a bit. And you have to find a different direction to make the permanent manager. Yes, there's obviously some cases when it works. Mikel Arteta at Arsenal is certainly one of them. But you just, for Manchester United, I think the number one thing they need to do is separate themselves from not Michael Carrick. The number one thing Manchester United needs to do is separate themselves from Sir Alex Ferguson.
I can those conversations in the locker room, special advantages like that. Oh, the class of '92, or under Sir Alex Ferguson, or you have to fulfill this standard. You have to go and win these games. You have to go make the fans happy. It's just, I think already playing at Manchester United is very big pressure. I mean, you're playing at one of the biggest clubs in England. You're playing at a very historic institution. Um, don't make it any more difficult than what it has to be. I totally agree with you. But I sort of want to address that just because it's a lot of the chat that's going on, and I think I think it's something that we had to have addressed as well. But moving on, obviously we were talking about history right now, and we were talking about great institutions, and this competition has many of them. It's the Champions League, and we're gonna go ahead and preview these matches this week. Reese, can you go ahead and get it kicked off for me?
All right, Joe Allar Jr. Champions League format, 36 sides, top 8 automatically going to the round of 16, 9 through 24 have to play in a playoff to get into the round of 16. Out of the 36 teams, only 2 have already qualified into the top 8. Those 2 sides are Arsenal and Manchester United, and the way the draw works is the 1 and 2 seed are interchangeable.
You meant Man City, mate.
What?
You said Arsenal and Manchester United.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. Well, I was playing FIFA. No, I'm kidding. Arsenal and Bayern Munich. Sorry. So back to it, Joel. You threw me off there. Thanks, man. 6 through 13 currently in the Champions League are all tied on 13 points. That's PSG, Newcastle United, Chelsea, Barcelona, Sporting, Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, and Atalanta. And then all teams third place through 18th, which is nuts, can qualify within the top 8. Again, it is very, very tight. A ton of sides are still in the running. In fact, only 4 sides are fully eliminated. Those 4 sides: Eintracht Frankfurt, Slavia Prague, Villarreal, and Kairat Almaty. Again, there are so many things that need to happen. So we're not going to look at all 36 games. But you mentioned the City Galatasaray game. We got into that one earlier. Uh, PSG Newcastle. That is probably the biggest game of the day. PSG's currently sit sixth. Newcastle sit in seventh, 6-7. They're both tied on 13 points. There's a very real chance that the winner of that match will finish within the top eight, and the loser will miss out on the top eight and have to play an additional two matches. The match is not played in Joao's favorite stadium, St. James Park. It's rather played in the park. The Princes, Joao, PSG Newcastle. This isn't their first time meeting in the Champions League. They met a couple years ago in the group stage, it was then. What are your thoughts on how this game might go?
Well, I just think that I think it's going to be a very interesting match, right? Even though Newcastle in the Premier League hasn't had the best season, um, I still think that they're still up to compete, but I don't think that they have enough quality to surpass this Paris squad, who, once again, at the top of Ligue 1, who would have thought? But no, they have quality at uh every position. I mean, the front three is already very deadly. I think it's going to be very difficult for Kieran Trippier to try to go ahead and defend Desiree Doué, as well as Lewis Hall trying to defend whether it's Ousmane Dembele or Vicha Kvaratskhelia down the right wing. I think PSG wins this match. I don't know how much they win it by, but I think it's going to be very cushiony for them. I could see a 2, maybe 3-1 win
3-1 win for who, sorry?
For Paris.
All right, it's certainly going to be a difficult game. I honestly feel that I think I think both teams are going to be a bit complacent early. Obviously, as results come trickling in, there's a very real chance that with a draw, both sides miss out on the top eight. But I think they'll be a little bit worried early, but then try and build that build the match forward as it goes on. Moving on to another game. This one's actually fairly interesting. Dortmund in 16th place. They play Inter, who are two spots above them, as well as 2 points. They play, excuse me, Dortmund, or with a win, either team could go into the top eight. Dortmund, if they lose, could also miss out altogether. It's been rocky for Dortmund. They're coming off a loss against Tottenham and then a draw against Bodo Glimt at home, of all places. So, Joao, what are your thoughts on how that game might go?
I think that this match is going to be very tight. I think that it's going to be very difficult for both sides to try to put something on the scoreboard, just because Borussia Dortmund's main area of strength is sort of the attack, and Inter Milan's main area of strength is mostly that defense. I mean, they've been employing this three back system for a couple of years now, and they're pretty much experts at it. It's helped them in many games over the past couple seasons. It's what allowed them to go to a Champions League final. They're very cohesive with it. So I think a draw could be most possible. But once again, it just really depends on if Lautaro Martinez and Thuram decide to bring their game for Inter, because I think they can totally be game changers on their day.
I do have to say, when Arsenal played Inter Milan just a week ago, I was very unimpressed by Inter Milan in that match. I thought Arsenal were well over them. Inter Milan, when they won the, or not won the Champions League, when they lost the Champions League final last season, they were a very old side, and that's still the case. You know, obviously they brought in Manuel Akanji, but he's still 30 years old. Serbi's 37 on the back line. DeMarco is only 28, but he looks much older than that. They're very old. They're not as old as compared to last season, but like still, I worry about them in a large majority of matches. But again, it'll be an interesting one to watch. Lastly, to round out this Champions League talk before we take a flight across the Atlantic to round things up, there are very realistic chance that of the top eight, 6 of the sides will be from England, will be from the Premier League. Arsenal's obviously already secured. Liverpool will secure with a draw. Tottenham, and they play Karabakh at home. Tottenham will secure with a win. Newcastle, Chelsea, Man City, they're in the running, so they could finish top 8 or in the 9 through 24 spots. How much does this show the quality difference between the Premier League and anywhere else?
Well, I mean, one thing is saying, oh yeah, the Premier League is better, or La Liga is better, or Ligue 1 is better. I think the numbers speak for itself, and I think that really the results show for themselves as well. They do all the talking necessary because it'd be much different if you were to say, oh well, this league is very um it's very close to this league. I'm just gonna throw names out there. Ligue 1 to La Liga, and a 13th place squad and Ligue 1 beats a third place squad in La Liga, you'd say, wow, well Ligue 1 shows that they have much more quality than La Liga. Now, if you put that into place with the Premier League and La Liga and sort of what's going on right now, it's honestly you have to start listening to the facts. A lot of people aren't gonna like it. And I know a lot of people personally that if you tell them, oh, the Premier League is better than La Liga, or the Premier League is better than this or league, they'll tell me, oh no, you're crazy, or oh no, you're stupid, or oh no, you're biased because that's mostly what you watch. But the facts are speaking for themselves, people. It's time for you to open your eyes and see, wow, this is what's going on. And at the same time, it's you can't deny it. I mean, much more money is spent in the Premier League than in other leagues across the board. You have to spend money to survive in the Premier League. Meanwhile, you can try to formulate something else in another European league, but it's not going to work necessarily as well as splashing the cash. You got to have the money, baby.
I agree. I agree. Money makes the world go round, and certainly makes the footballing world go around as well. I said that was the last thing we were going to talk about, the Champions League. I've got one more bit. People hate on this Champions League format. They've done it so much since it was introduced last season because the first 7 games have absolutely no drama because you're playing sides that you really don't have a rematch against, right? You know, if Arsenal Inter had beef in matchday 2, matchday 5, they're playing a random, it doesn't really matter. It's not like the group stage where you kind of establish these rivalries. But match day 8, when you have 18 Champions League matches kicking off at the same time, with so many sides in the running. I mean, again, only 6 sides have their fate fully confirmed as to where they'll be once the knockout stages start. That's Arsenal, Bayern Munich, who know they're going to be in the top 8 somehow, some way, and then Eintracht Frankfurt, Slavia Prague, Villarreal, and Kairat Almaty, who know that they have one last match in the Champions League this season. That is 30 teams who don't know whether they'll be in the top 8 or in the 9 through 24 or out altogether. Now, obviously, there are some sides that kind of know they'll be in the top 8 or in the 9 through 20, but regardless, it doesn't matter. This format's amazing. What are your thoughts?
I really like it as well. I think it's very similar to sort of what happens at the World Cup, sort of like on the last like match day to see who's gonna go on to the round of 16. I think it's very similar, and I really like it. I really like this format just because all the games, same time. It's you're either gonna ball out. Hopefully at halftime you see, oh well, the other team is losing. We can sort of step it back or whatever. But it's definitely gonna be very interesting and very exciting to see how squads line up, and really how much intensity we're gonna see. And it can be from anyone as well. And that's the most beautiful part. I want to see a David versus Goliath tomorrow. I want to see small clubs play their hearts out, play a great match, win against a big team. I think it'd be absolute cinema.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's not too many David Goliaths or there are a few David Goliaths, but not too many that really matter in this case. What did you just drop?
My notepad.
Or your notepad?
Shame on me.
Can't hold on to the notepad. Can't hold on to the football jaw. Come on, buddy. Now we've got a few minutes left. some very, very exciting, interesting, and potentially flawed news on this side of the Atlantic in North America, the United States of America. Um, bum bum bum. The USL. Sorry, I was reading a text about British passports. Weirdly enough, the USL announced today that they have kind of figured out the system that they have relied or chosen to fit their Division One, Division Two, Division Three professional league structure. Now, the new or the existing leagues that USL has is USL Championship, USL in League One, and USL League Two. The only two professional leagues from that list is, of course, USL Championship and USL League One. USL League Two is purely amateur, so they are not included in the professional structure. But what has been announced today is that the USL Premier will be the new Division 1. 20 sides will likely play at some point in USL Premier for the expected year 1, 2028. 20 teams will play, or sorry, let me redo that. For the expected year 1 in 2028, 14 teams will hopefully play in USL Premier 1, which will be Division 1 per reports from Devin Kerr. 8 or 9 current USL Championship sides will be in that inaugural season of the USL Premier Division, while 5 to 6 will be either new clubs altogether or currently sit outside of the USL ecosystem. USL Championship will then hold 20 sides as well. It will be a fully national table without conferences. And then USL League One will have a national footprint and will have a regional format. So that will be divided into conferences or groups, however it may be. But it finally seems like U.S. soccer will finally be having promotion and relegation in some form in the United States. Before I ask for your thoughts on it, Joel, I'm going to admit that this is a heavily flawed plan. As much as I want promotion and relegation in the United States, the USL has fundamental flaws. It's ran by a real estate company. There's no real revenue sharing between the teams in this league, which is something you see in the NFL. All the expansion fees that to enter the league stay at the USL. The clubs have to pay yearly dues to USL. The USL Players Association currently is without a CBA. As they are looking for better housing options, better pay, and all things considered. They did release a statement themselves on the USL announcement. They've done quite a few statements over the time about the USL Premier League. Because the USL Premier League CEO and owner Alec Papadakis, quote unquote, said it will create a strong foundation for players while unlocking meaningful opportunities for stakeholders and investors. The investors are literally just Papadakis and his company. In the claims about building a strong foundation of players, while players are currently on the verge of a lockout, while it doesn't seem like it will actually happen, the professional standards really aren't there. And as the USLPA has been pushing hashtag stand for standards. They've been very, very active on social media. The players are pushing for it, players above the USLPA. Joao, focus on the good part of it. The fact that USL will be getting promotion and relegation after so many years of talk. We'll talk about that for now. What are your thoughts initially?
Look, initially, just hearing pro rel in the United States, absolutely, it's absolutely electric. I think it's something that's been needed for a long time coming. I'm not against the U.S. sports system, but I don't think it has a place in a sport like football. I don't think that it has a I think it takes away of the magic that we see, sort of with the Premier League, and all these European competitions that employ pro rel. I think that there's so many more stories to be told. I think that there's so many things to be seen. Let's look at the positives. The positive sides of it, like if there were perfect conditions for players, if there weren't so much if there's weren't so much uncertainty in the league, I would be overall happy. But it's just there's these pieces that have to be fixed. But just the fact that it's being considered, and just the fact that it can be done. I mean, yeah, it has to be something to celebrate. But obviously in a cautious manner.
I agree, and I think that's really the main point of it is that the cautiousness. You really, really need to be cautious about this arrangement and cautious in your excitement because as someone that has been around the USL for far too many years by this point, I'm sick of it by now. No, no, I'm kidding by that. We have seen time and time again the USL has came out with these announcements that they're going to create the USL Super League with X amount of clubs. And how many clubs are actually playing in that league at the moment? They were expected to have clubs in Phoenix, Tucson, Oakland. Where are they? They're not existing. The amount of times that I have seen them announce expansion sites in random cities, Brownsville, Texas, or big cities like Atlanta, big cities like Chicago, and these sites never see the light of day. It makes me struggle to believe that the USL will ever realistically follow through on this plan. As much as I want it, I struggle to see it. I struggle to believe it. Looking at some of the structure of it, the structure of what the format would be. Again, we talked 2020 or 20 teams Premier Division, 20 teams league in Championship, and then regionalized in League One. League One currently has 18 sides. Championship has 25. They both have about seven, I think it is, expansion sides combined that are or Championship has six, so then League One has 10, four, so that makes 10 possible future expansion sides. That would bump the number up to 35, 53 sides. Add in the potential 5 to 6, we're looking at 60 teams, so maybe a 20-team League One. I know League One has a million expansions, but again, I struggle to see the format because you're looking at the teams in League One, right? You got teams in Omaha, Spokane, Fort Wayne, Naples, Boise, Portland, Maine, Westchester, New York. These are places that I wouldn't know how to fly to from Phoenix, Arizona, right? I'm sure you would have to take multiple flights. Corpus Christi as well. They're kicking off in 2026. These are places that are difficult to get to, and this is really one of my biggest issues with USL League One is you look at League One, right? Then I mentioned all those sides. It's not regionalized. They're going to have to come up with a ton of different teams to really fill out League One and be able to make it regionalized and be able to enforce these quote unquote local rivalries that they want to push. And because right now, the expansion sides that they have are Fort Lauderdale, Port St. Lucie, Rodeo Soccer Club, which is somewhere in Texas, Sporting Cascades FC, which is in Eugene, Oregon. Point St. Lucie, I know it's in Florida. I have no idea how you get there. And how do you get there from Spokane? These are difficult places to get to, difficult places to connect from. It's going to be a nightmare. I I think with most things in life, I'm an optimist. Started to become an optimist. I'm better than I was a few years ago. With USL, anytime there's any news of anything, it could be that the USL has a new lawnmower sponsor. I'm immediately pessimistic about it, and that's the truth. As I mentioned, they have failed so many times to deliver on some of these promises, and I'm worried. I'm really worried about how this will go.
Yeah, it's again, you tick all the boxes, you hit everything that needs to be said. You've been around this league much longer than I have. I've only gotten into it the past 3 years, I want to say, and that was with FC Tucson and USL League Two. Um, but even then, it's very concerning, especially the logistics. I think logistics is number one right now in trying to integrate these leagues after conditions and stuff like that for the players. It's you're gonna have to catch a plane. You're gonna have to catch a bus. You're gonna have to do all these things. Getting to the matches is I mean one of the most important things because you have to be able to play a game. And if you can't get to a match, what are you gonna do? And even then, this puts more strain on the players as well because a the recovery times are gonna be more limited because you have to travel from a very big place, sort of like Charleston, Phoenix, whatever, to a very niche, a very not so known place, a very not so commercialized place. It's just it's messy, but
No,
again,
it's not. Messi's in MLS.
it's not pretty. Um, and I just think that I think it's something that we're gonna have to wait and see again. You knew I was
Oh,
gonna say it.
yeah.
That little smile. You knew what I was gonna say. But whatever you don't have in optimism, I'm gonna have it because obviously I haven't been around this long enough, and my trust hasn't been betrayed as many times as yours has. So once again, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see how this goes. If it works out, beautiful. I will be excited to see these matchups. But again, I'm excited. I'm excited.
I think to round things out, one thing that quite concerns me is some of them, again, back to some of the travel, but this is beyond the travel. This is talking just purely about markets. You look at MLS, what markets do they have in their league? They have Dallas, they have New York, they have Los Angeles. And I know the USL's expanded to Brooklyn and they've expanded to Dallas, but you need to build a bigger footprint in these large markets, in these cities that people live in. I'm not saying people don't live in Lancaster, California, but I'm also saying that not as many people live in Lancaster as they do Los Angeles. You need a Seattle in there. You need some of these big cities, and you need them to be successful. Miami FC's in the USL Championship. Last 3 seasons, have been one of the worst professional sides I've ever watched. You need a bigger footprint. I don't know.
And even then, if you're gonna advertise a team in Dallas, try to put it as close as Dallas as possible. If not, try to stick it somewhere between Dallas and Fort Worth in the Metroplex. You can find somewhere in Grapevine. You can find somewhere in South Lake because the land is there. Don't go put it out in Louisville and Mesquite and these places that takes a long time to go because it's not going to appeal to the people as well. Same thing happened with FC Dallas. What happened? Oh yes, this team is in Dallas, but you play in Plano. If you live in Dallas, that's a
They play in Frisco.
They play in Frisco. It's Frisco or Plano, one of the two. But the point is, it takes 20 to 30 minutes to get there from Dallas. The day that I went to an FC Dallas game, I live near Fort Worth. So you add another half an hour there. If you live in the Metroplex, you're not gonna willingly want to say, "Oh yeah, let's go to an Atletico Dallas game or let's go to an FC Dallas game." If you know you're gonna have to drive almost an hour to get there, and as well as find parking, get into your seats, you've already wasted an hour and a half, 2 hours, just getting there. It's you got to do better there as well.
Absolutely, but Dallas better than me. Right? I've been to Dallas once in my life that I've actually left the airport, and I was with Joel then, and I spent about 3/4 of the time in the Walmart near AT&T Stadium. That's not true, but that's pretty much how it felt. Where's the Cotton Bowl?
The Cotton Bowl.
Because Atletico Dallas, they have an affiliate club in the USL. Joel, what'd you drop this time, buddy?
I caught my microphone midair.
Yeah,
but
that's
we're good
unacceptable. Because I could hear that way too loud. They have an affiliate club in USL Super League named not Atletico Dallas, named Dallas Trinity. They play in the Cotton Bowl. They actually played Barcelona in a friendly this past season. They're creating a men's affiliate to join the championship next season. They'll be playing in the Cotton Bowl as well. Where's the Cotton Bowl?
You see, the Cotton Bowl is in Dallas.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, it's near downtown.
Okay, so it's not like putting your team in Frisco or wherever FC Dallas play.
It's much closer to downtown. It's much more accessible to downtown. You have neighboring cities like Mesquite, Plano. Just you have these places that are very accessible to the Cotton Bowl. So I think it's a great spot. It would have been different if they put it out if they put it out in like a Duncanville or something like that. Just I'm just throwing out names at
The
this
initial
point.
plan was for it to be in Garland.
Yeah, no,
I have no idea
uh,
where that is, so.
unacceptable. Garland is
Okay. I
it's a
like that.
city. It's a city northeast of Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's still far. Like I'm gonna
Okay.
pull up the map real quick just to see Dallas to Garland. But
Yeah,
again, you want to put it in accessible places. I have it right here. It's
we
40 minutes.
oh wow. And that's not at rush hour. That's they're an hour ahead of Phoenix, so that's 1 p.m. effectively on a Tuesday. Yeah, that is not pretty whatsoever. You guys came to listen to Premier League, Champions League talk, and here we are talking about the map of the Dallas Metroplex. Things you'll never get anywhere else. What's your favorite airport in Dallas? DFW or Love Field? Have you ever flown out of Love Field?
I haven't. I've only flown out of DFW.
I don't think
I
anyone's
gotta
ever flown out of Love Field. I'm not gonna lie.
I gotta rock with DFW to the day I die.
I gotta say, DFW, diehard DFW guy, only because I've been there a couple times over the last year. Dude, it sucks. It's so bad. It's so big. The last two times, right? So the last time was the trip I mentioned where we flew. We went to Dallas together. We were gate like one, I think D1, right? The next time I was D3, which is right next to D1. D1 through 4 are like miles away from every other D gate. It's absurd. It's the worst airport construction in the country. Maybe it's my luck as well. Like if I was flying out of D25, I'd be fine. But no. But I think that's gonna round it up. Who would have ever thought we'd have explained the Dallas Metroplex and its surrounding cities, explained my hatred for DFW in a podcast where we went over the Premier League, Champions League, and the USL expansion. That is, again, something you can only find on the inverted microphone. Joel R. Jr., where should they follow you?
You can go ahead and find me at Joao Lar Jr. on Twitter, Sports with Joao on Instagram, and the JL Football on TikTok.
You changed your Instagram.
I changed my Instagram just today.
Did you? Oh, because you have news with Joao and sports with Joao now. So which one's Joao Reports? That's sports with Joao?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Joel Lara making moves, making business moves. Good for you,
Bang,
kiddo.
bang.
You can follow me on Instagram at ReeseFC, I think it is. I can't remember. TikTok at ReeseFC, I think. Actually, one of them's Reese_FC. Twitter, more importantly, at Reese Goodall. Follow the inverted microphone, the most important, on YouTube, the inverted microphone, which hopefully you're doing since you're watching. Make sure to follow on Instagram at the inverted microphone, TikTok at the inverted microphone. I know you just listened to this podcast on YouTube, but make sure to go do it on our Spotify as well. Leave us a good review. It's a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when you explain Dallas-Fort Worth area live on a football podcast. Have a good day, everybody.